Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So recently I came back from SIkhi camp, and I'd just like to give some feedback based on my own experience. So first off, I'd like to thank all the Sevadars for organising it. They've done a really good job and ensured it's run quite smoothly. There are many positives I've taken from the camp, and for example, just looking at the sadgar given to Guruji compared to your local Gurdwara, and also the atmosphere is much more lively compared to your local Gurdwara as well. So my own highlights from camp were the arta. That was something very new and something you don't experience a lot. Also, talking to others, and my group leader included, Hardeep Singh Nahang, I learnt a lot from him about him going to Hazur Sahib, which is a completely different aspect of Sikhi, which we don't really get exposed to. So here are the rules and regulations. These were set out quite clearly, and I believe they were restated at the beginning of the camp. So our dorms are separate, but our groups are mixed. I know the camp has some measures in order to prevent issues between girls and boys, but I believe there was one case where a girl and a boy got kicked out for behaving inappropriately. So they've also given us a nice booklet. It's quite organised, and it's just given us a summary of what the camp's about, what to expect, the timetable, a bit more information about activities and whatnot. There's also space to write notes on the talk. So we also have the timetable over here. So in the day, you'd usually have about one talk, which is about an hour long, and after that we'd have a group discussion. The rest of the kata was done during the divans in the evening. So activities ran from 1 to 4, and after that we had refreshments and a little break before the evening divan and sakhian. So I'll go into more detail about activities and talks a bit later. So there was also a group seva timetable, so various groups have to do different types of seva, which is nice for some people who've never done it before. So the speakers were very energetic, and that was really good. However, having spoken to other campers and me myself, I feel that some of the prachar was a bit shallow and quite generic. The topic was a gal for the entire camp, so a lot of talks were about a gal, and there are obviously quite a lot of overlap between talks. I understand that people are at different levels, and therefore maybe some of the parcharaks might be wary to go into too much depth. However, personally, I wasn't convinced by some of the parcharak myself, and I feel that a remedy to both these issues would be, especially when quoting sakhis, to quote not only the source, but the precise location of the source, and which again, these sakhis should be told in full. Actually, it'd be even better if the sakhis were made readily and directly available for the sangat, since sakhis and ithihaas in general tends to be less accessible than Gurbani. This would help with some of the depth issues and reliability. So I believe the duty of parcharak is to convince the sangat and leave no room for doubt. And I feel that because the speakers are very skilled, they can get away with a bit more emotional prachar compared to more factual, academic-based prachar. In addition, I also feel that when people are talking, sometimes they try and mould the ithihaas to their talk rather than the other way around. The issue I have with this is that a lot of the depth is lost in the sakhi because you're only looking at it from a certain perspective, whereas when you actually cross-reference Gurbani and ithihaas and raag, you get a much fuller picture of what Guruji is trying to tell you. I would encourage fellow campers and sevadars alike to always ask parcharaks for their sources and references. From my own experience, reading a sakhi in its pure form is usually much more educational and mind-blowing than many parcharaks can deliver themselves. There are a few contrasts in ithihaas compared to some of the parchar. For example, we were told the sakhi of Madhadas, and apparently the reason why Madhadas attacked Guruji was because Guruji sat on Madhadas's throne. Whereas in ithihaas, in Amarnama, it is written that Guruji was attacked by Madhadas because Guruji ordered the jatka of Madhadas's pet goats, and fed them to the Singhs for langar. This is just an example of why you should always ask Parcharaks for the sources. Like other camps, this camp was theme based and the theme was Akal. However, I feel that forcing a theme on a camp can be very restrictive because you're just focusing your talks and everything on one aspect of Sikhi, which doesn't really allow room for much depth. Now I just want to talk a bit about the activities. So there were quite a few activities on. There was a hike to the waterfall, there was canoeing, there was an assault course, there was yoga and art, and as well a trip to the beach. So on Thursday as well, there are a few extra options which included learning how to do sakhian and taking hukamnama. There was also Sandhya and Kirtan classes on Thursday as well. On the whole, there were lots of enjoyable activities. However, these weren't really Sikhi based, so it'd be much better if Sandhya and Kirtan were offered throughout the week, and that at a high level. So Kirtan taught in raag and performed in raag would be really, really good. So it'd be even better if the activities offered were a bit more Sikhi based, or you somehow incorporate Sikhi into them. For example, perhaps doing Nam Simran at the beach. So the camp did talk about Shastad and their importance. However, Guruji also says, Abhyas bina Shastad mani bik. So without practicing, your weapons are poison. It'd be excellent if martial arts was incorporated into daily activities. I do elusive fighting and I'd highly recommend them because they teach you both Shastad Vidya and self-defense, and they're tailored towards Sikhs, so they teach you how to protect your case, your dada. And so this is just some feedback, and I hope you find it useful. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.